My big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
you can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for it is worth
it.
Just focus on the next step.
Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing something.
That is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing anything.
It's a challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think there's a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I just
love
working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about.
hindsight,
I've also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
It
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
Yeah, welcome, Felix. Lovely to see you. And yeah, as we were saying off air, we appreciate someone like you making the time to share some thoughts with us. So I just wanted to start. I think you're interesting because there's music kids everywhere. And as a teacher, you'd see music kids in school. You know, they were carrying their guitar, they were off to cello, they were, you know, off to singing lessons. But it's a world that doesn't often lead to a career as maybe they envisaged or hoped for. It becomes a hobby. And that's really sad if that's your real passion. And I'm not saying having a hobby like music is a bad thing, you know, sitting in your garage playing the guitar. But so we really want to get sort of advice to you about how you progressed through study and then actually made a living, I hope, out of your music. So look, yeah, so far. And so for people who don't know you, I'm about to read some stuff about you. There will be people who don't know you, but after this will think, holy hell, how don't I? But then I suppose there's drummers around the world sitting in massive bands who maybe we don't know about either. And in their scene, they're pretty well famous. So
I'll find people in LA where I'm like, how have I not heard of you before? But you've been like killing it for the last 10 years, you know?
Yeah. So look, obviously at school, a real music kid, and every school has these music kids, but you were also deputy head boy. You started your drums more seriously at age 9, and I know Dad's musical, and so obviously music was part of your upbringing, but the drum thing at around that 9. There'll be a lot of kids that resonate with Smoke Free Rock Quest, which you were in 2014, 16, 17. Now, I imagine those scenes, there'll be even kids who possibly remember you in those, the older kids your age that remember you at Rock Quest. So I suppose that's a beginning point too for a lot of kids if they have those opportunities to get into those competitions at their schools. That's where you started. I also know you popped back to your school and mentored and taught young kids whenever you were in town. So that's sort of where we're at, is these people who stay involved with their peers or their kids and when they're back in town. So I want to obviously thank you for doing that. You started and I believe completed a Bachelor of Commercial Music.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep. And you got a scholarship music practice major while you were there. You played in a Wellington band called the Stink.
Stink, yeah.
And I suppose that's another heads up, and you're laughing, and I don't know how big Stink was, but you stayed involved, you left school, and you got into a band. And I think a lot of kids, when they leave home or go down for their studies, maybe that will be one piece of advice you'll get, that you need to, even if it is a semi rough around the edges band, you need to keep going and practice that performance. From there, though, your story changes. You start touring with BENEE. From what I believe, and obviously everyone listening will probably know of BENEE, but when I read some of the places you've played, we're talking O2 Arena, where you were opening for Tate McRae, you've opened for Olivia Rodrigo, you've played for Hayley Knott, in Boston with the Wallows, Fuji Rock Festival in Japan, Coachella, Women's World Cup, New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, the Glasshouse Pomona. We're talking right up there. And so those lists of things would probably start for people to realize the quality of you and what you do. And when they go onto social media after this and they type your name and they try and befriend you and they see the stuff you present to the world with videos on you drumming, it's incredible. So I'd encourage people to do that if they're now starting to get a sense of they're looking at someone who's pretty talented. I don't know the music industry enough, but and you'll be able to tell us later, in terms of Kiwis touring overseas, you may be one of our starlight sort of performers, particularly in drum.
That is the crazy thing about coming from New Zealand, is that it is, there are very few. So I feel extremely grateful to be in this position for sure.
Yeah. So look, I think again, people sitting back now, they're getting advice from someone. I think that puts it in context for them. Obviously, in terms of kids and people who are going to listen to this and resonate with them, there'll be a hell of a lot of people who just want to catch up with where you're at because they know a lot about you. They've heard the name. But it's obviously about music. It's opportunities and challenges in music. It's about living and being an artist and the struggle with that as well as the benefits. It's the touring, it's the travel, it's the parties. It's that whole rock and roll lifestyle that we think you live, but you're probably sitting there after playing till 2 a.m. We missed your interview the other day because you were at an embassy trying to get a passport to say, the world you live in is probably not. However, I go back to we had an interview with a firefighter, and I said if I could turn up to a party and say I was something and feel cool, initially I went, I want to say I'm a firefighter. Now I'm going to say a drummer. It has that swagger about it that feels kind of cool. And again, if I watch your videos, it is. So look, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time, particularly for those music kids, for kids who want to get overseas, make a name for themselves. Being that music kid I started with, can you take us back to school? Your experience maybe at school academically, but also intertwining that music. I see you a lot like an athlete. You were intertwining a gift you had in music with doing well at school and managing that before you went off. So yeah, can you reflect on that for us?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like being in school is what got me to start playing drums, because when I was 9, like all my parent-teacher interviews would just say like he's a great student, but he distracts everyone because he's tapping on the desk all the time. And so that's what led my parents to get me a drum kit for my birthday. And then, I feel like I was super into like swimming, and sports and stuff. And so there was a big period of time where drumming was just something that I knew was super fun. And it was something that I could do with my dad. He played guitar and we would write songs together and play little like shows here and there. But it wasn't until probably I did stuff like Smoke Free Rock Quest where I was like, oh, this seems like it would be a cool road to like try and like take, and you see other bands doing stuff, and then you discover music that you like, and even with the help of the internet and seeing videos of different bands touring and stuff on YouTube, that started to become more of like an obsession rather than just like a passing thought, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So academically, how were you going, Felix? What subject? You obviously, I suppose, took music, I presume, and what else did you do?
Yeah, I did music and drama all the way to the very end. And then I think when I was year 11, I had to do NCA level 1 maths, but I think by that point I maybe dropped science, and I had just started to go like art history, English, drama, history, music. Because I kind of had it in my head that those were the only things I was good at. Looking back now, like I wish I had more confidence with like doing maths and science. I think I was just telling myself that I couldn't do it. But yeah, I kind of came home and spoke to Dad about it, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't really see, there's nothing else that really interests me, so I want to go like full steam ahead with this stuff. And I think I was like extremely, extremely fortunate that both my parents were like, let's support you through that and let you take that road. But I think in my last 2 years, I passed with an excellence endorsement, and then in year 11, I passed with a merit. Do they still do that?
Yeah. Well, and changes soon, but yeah. So you're speaking the language of kids there today. Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, I think like keeping up with academics and keeping up with school is like super important to me as well. Maybe that was also because like my dad was a teacher, so there was no wagging past.
How much influence did those rock quests? Where did your major influence at school come from with the music? Was it being in those rock quest things, or were there other things? I mean, you and Grace off air were chatting about being in some other thing you were doing, And
Yes.
and can I also get you to add on there, when did you start to get a sense that you were quite good on the drums? Was there a sense then?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the RockQuest thing, that was super cool because I had friends who I'd be playing bands with, and then their older brothers were always in the bands that were doing quite well. And, like making it to the national final, making it to the TV show and everything. And so that for me, I just saw them as the rock stars, I was like, they get to have an interview on national TV. Like, this is crazy. Like, that's my dream, just to be on that show, So I feel like, yeah, having people to look up to in that circle, definitely, and people who are succeeding as well, like it made it seem like it was more within my grasp. Well, it could become a goal rather than just like a dream, And then in terms of feeling like I still struggle with like my sense of like self-worth and stuff in terms of drumming. I'll have days and I'll have shows where I'll think, that was incredible, that was super fun, and then I'll have times where I'm like, why am I even here? Like, it's a constant battle with that. But I guess like honestly growing up and having like really supportive parents was really good. Like I'd have times where I wasn't really getting any feedback from friends or anything, but I'd come home and I'd practice drums for an hour every day, and I'd go down and mum would be like, you sound great today, And so to have things like that, I feel like that really help me push along and keep going.
It is interesting, Felix, because I mean, I don't know, and Grace will have the same when you go to row or whatever you're up to, where you just feel out of sync. And so, you go for a surf one day and you feel like you're a superstar. The next day you think, oh, I can barely make a move. So it is one of those things. There's a lot of internal feeling, and there's some days you've just got that thing going. It is like that.
Yeah, some days you can just be in an absolute flow, and then other days it's like you're just smashing your head against a brick wall, and that's where you can either like keep trying to smash your head against a brick wall or just take some time and then come back to it,
On that whole thing of like when you enter a bigger room or like a small fish in a big pond, a big fish in a small pond, and then you level up. Like a lot of them said, O2, these crazy artists that everyone knows, and you listen to them and you're there, like you're part of that music. You keep getting into like bigger ponds, and athletics, which often I'll relate it to. It's with athletics, with swimming, you knew how fast you were. There is literally a world record best. You have that as the pinnacle. Whereas something like music, there's no parameters or
Yeah.
like, oh, that's good. Like, yes, there's awards, sure, and there's like streaming, but it's such a subjective thing. So when you say that there's days that you're like, oh, I don't even know, I'm not too surprised to hear it, given how like, subjective music is.
Yeah, and even just how quickly like the landscape of just everything is changing as well. I feel like it is super similar to like sports and stuff as well, where you can just have days where you feel amazing and then days where you don't feel amazing at all.
Is that where in the past, in the 70s, 80s, where some of those rock bands would have been high on drugs? Because you're performing constantly and you're constantly looking for a feeling, because the crowd's at you. They're there to see your sweat pouring off, your sticks flying it is and that's exhausting night after night. And would you suggest that that's possibly where the drugs and the lifestyle started?
Sure, for sure. I think it was all really just one big coping mechanism, I mean, it still happens now. Like, I'm very fortunate that I'd never got into that. You're constantly tired. You're away from family or away from your loved ones. You're in places where you've never been to before, and you're feeling homesick, and you're only there for a day. Then you have to go to a new time zone the next day. Even just the juxtaposition from like going from like being on stage and having all those people out there, and then you go back to the green room and it's just you and the same crew of people that you've been with for the last like month. Like nothing has changed in that aspect. Like it's just been another day. So it's not like you're coming off stage and there's like hundreds of people back there like cheering you on. It's like you go back and sometimes like I'm having a shower in the most disgusting arena shower there you could ever think about, and then hopping us afterwards. So
yeah, which is also the other side where a lot of those bands would have been inviting all the groupies back and all the girls and all that, and then that whole other scene would have started. I'm interested, although still got to go back, but what do you take, and I take that word take in a really loose, what do you do or take to then, if you're not able to do the drug, or you don't want to do the drugs, go you, but what do you do to, is it I just have a Coke with lots of sugar? Do I slap myself? What do you do to get up, to perform?
And get up. I honestly, I love, I feel like I'll play my best shows when I've gone for like a run that's 3 miles or more. Like that's like my rule. If I have a show day, then I want to have a really good sweat and a really good exercise session before I do that, because then that allows me to get rid of those initial tense, nervous feelings, I feel like if I go up and I've already had a big sweat and I've got some energy out, then I can go on stage and my shoulders just sit 2 inches lower than they would if I went up and I hadn't done anything, So I'll do that, and then I'll always I'll drink a beer after the show, maybe even a beer beforehand. Obviously not every night. There have been some tours where you get to the end of the tour and you're like, oh my goodness, so I've had one beer after every show and now I have a little belly. But yeah, exercise and just try and eat healthy as well. It's so easy on tour to get into the habit of just eating really bad and treating your body like crap, because even you go into the green room and your rider may just, especially in places like America, your rider could just be all sugary snacks and chips, and there's always a Coke in the fridge. So it's kind of having to make those decisions to not do that, so that you do feel good for the show and you can feel like you can kind of perform at that level night after night, because sometimes you don't feel like it.
So can I take you back then, Felix? You were sitting at school. It sounds like probably a logical, you had already said to mum and dad, look, music's my thing, loving this. So you didn't have a lot of, I'm not going to say choices. You pretty much knew you were going to go study music.
Yeah, I think
And how did that go for you, and where did you go, and how did that pan out for you? Because you went and studied
3 years, yeah.
4 years.
I mean, I would I feel like I just never really gave myself, and I don't know if this is even advice that I'd give other people, because I can see how it could go the wrong way, but I just never really gave myself a plan B. I remember going on family holidays and stuff and pretending that I was on tour then. It was ingrained in my mind that was what I was going to do, So therefore I was gonna every step I took was gonna have that in mind. So moving to Wellington to study at Massey was a really good first step, because not even so much from what I was learning at the course. I did learn a lot of valuable things, but more so just for the experience of living in a city for the first time with a thriving music scene, and then also the context that I was able to get from that. I moved down to university, and within the first 6 months, me and Dylan Clark, who also went to Cambridge High, who was the flounder Grace was talking about before at Stage Challenge, we started a band called Stink with Tia, and then Tia grew up with Stella, who's BENEE. So if I didn't move down to Wellington, even get in that band, then I probably wouldn't be in LA right now, So it's kind of butterfly effect stuff.
Yeah. Were you at the College of Creative Arts?
Yeah, Massey University.
It's design, music, screen arts, and fine arts.
Yeah.
Because interestingly, we've got Holly Gascoigne coming on after you, and she's in there, but she's more materials based. And we had Emily the other day, who designs wetsuits, and she went to. So it's really interesting that this College of Creative Arts is producing world-class drummers, wetsuit designer. Yeah. So, okay.
Well, I think a lot of it's just the community that they have there, and the type of people that are going. I moved down there, and I mean, even stuff I was seeing people wear, I was I've never seen this in Cambridge before, and there was really a sense of you could try anything, and there was never going to be any sort of cutting you down, or any type of that. Everyone was super supportive, and in some cases, the wilder the ideas, or the weirder the stuff you were doing, it was more encouraged, So it was a great place to go through some different phases and find myself a little bit.
So equally, you're down there, you're studying, like you're at school and you're dabbling in the music and you're in bands and rock quests. You're starting to perform with BENEE, you're saying, who was someone different, and you were doing gigs. And can you explain, so what you'd be Friday, Saturday nights playing with her? How did that evolve and change the direction of your career?
Yeah, it was, when did we start touring with her? I think the first like proper tour where we had actually gone overseas, I think it started off with like a couple of shows in Auckland, and then a couple little like opening slots for some Australian bands that had come over. But then with her, it was insane because, I mean, with every other group I've been a part of before, I mean, I guess this was the first time I was playing for an artist rather than playing in a band. But with every band I've been in, it was always just like, you know, tens and tens of gigs without anything really happening. Whereas this one, it was like, I was in my second rehearsal with her and we got told that we were like playing Laneway Festival and going to Europe and all this stuff. So it jumped really, really quickly. So yeah, started off with a couple gigs up in Auckland and nationally. And then I think about a quarter of the way through 2019, we went and did a little run through Europe and the US. And so I was still studying at this point, and I was still working as a bartender and a waiter at a restaurant as well. It was super lucky that at Massey, that was so like real world experience focused, that they had absolutely no problem with us. Sorry, my automatic cat feed is just going off right now. They had absolutely no problem with us going away and doing this stuff, you know. So they gave us a lot of, you know, extensions when we needed it. There was even one point where they said, like, look, you can, if you start touring full time, like, let's find a way for you to like document this touring experience, or somehow we can make an assignment that kind of goes along with that, so that you can do that rather than the other stuff that everyone else is doing. We never actually got to that point because COVID happened. But yeah, there was a lot of time where it was a lot of balancing. Like, we'd be in the airport gate and I'd be finishing my musicology essay that had to be handed in by that afternoon, and then we're gonna go play at some festival or something. So it was a lot of like, I feel like I was able to be humbled like constantly. You know, you'd start to feel like a rock star, and then it's like, oh no, you've got to hand your assignment in by this time, or tell work that I can't do the shift because a gig has come up. So yeah, I learned a lot of time management through that, I think.
Sorry, love them. I have a question here, because this has just popped to my mind. Felix, at this stage, like, obviously things took off quick, which is mean, but that whole conversation with money, like, because like you said, you make money sometimes, you hope so as a musician. When you first start as a group and things start to get serious, is there like a manager, or do you have a chat as a group? Like, I'm just thinking of other people who maybe they start to get some touring or opening gigs. How did you deal with, in the group at least, in your situation, deal with that conversation of like, oh, if money started to become part of it? Was that between you, or did you have an external like mediator, I guess?
All the BENEE stuff, like, she has her own management team. At the point that I'd started playing with her, she hadn't signed to a record label yet, but she had management and all that stuff. So all those chats were done on their side, and then they would come to us with like a rate.
Yeah.
With what we were doing and everything. Yeah, I was never really too involved with that stuff at the start, which I think is good as well.
Yeah, but it's good to know that they're like, that's a job. It's the same we pointed out with Cam Roigard, the All Black. It's like, when he starts getting professional, those are the conversations where you do need to seek out some pros who do that, because these are completely new things to you. Like, you're just excited to play, and then it's like, okay, but I need to invest in like the longevity business wise as well. It's not as,
and it has to be like sensible. And I think that was the weirdest thing to kind of like start to balance at the start, because it had always just been like a really fun thing for me. Like, I always said, like, I don't care if I'm like poor, like, if I get to do this, it's gonna be sick. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to be like super poor all the time. But yeah, and so they were definitely like, I didn't really care about the money at the start, but it definitely got to a point where I was like, oh well, now that I am like this is becoming my main thing that I'm doing, and I'm turning down other money making opportunities to do it. You know, there has to be some strategy with how you go along with it, and also just a lot of risk as well. Like it is just kind of like gambling a lot of the time. You know, you can put all your eggs in one basket, and in that basket the tour gets cancelled or something. You know, so
what do your contracts look like now, Felix? How long do you sign up for? Are you secure for 6 months, 12 months? And are you also in that contract a freelancer to play for Haley Knox or to play for, you know, if someone rings you up? How does you, how are you as a sole trader operating or,
Yeah. So at the moment I'm on an O1 visa in the US, which is like a work visa for, I think the official title of it is like for aliens with extraordinary ability.
That is it. Yes.
Yeah. So that applies to business or sports or like medical fields. I got one for playing drums, for music, and so I have like I'm signed to like an agency which allows me to work as a contractor for different artists. So when I like, say for the last couple of like BENEE tours I've done, I'd sign a contract at the start of it just to be like, this is how much you're going to be getting paid. This is how long the tour is. These are the terms and conditions if things get cancelled whatsoever. But for a lot of the time, there's no contract at all. It's just you're emailing back and forth with some management. You agree on a rate. They lock in the flights and you're away. So it's like, obviously that would chop and change depending on the level of the artist that you're working with, but I'd say more so than not I wouldn't be like signing on to any contracts.
Can you give us an example, Felix? Grace always laughs because I have a skill of asking this about money. But anyway, what are we talking? Even if just an example of a contract, you know, what are you paid, you know, $10 an hour, or are you paid $4,000 for the next 2 months? Just give us a.
Often it chops and changes per artist. Again, like I'll always try and hold a pretty similar rate. I'll try and have like a flat rate, so that's like a certain amount of money you're paid every day you're working for them. So whether that's a travel day on the plane, whether that's an off day, a lot of managements will try and, you know, pay you like half your rate for like a rehearsal day or an off day, which doesn't make sense because more work goes into rehearsal. But then there have been times where, you know, especially when I first moved over here and I was just really trying to get more work and trying to get myself into the circle of work, where people would come back and be like, we can only afford to pay you this much, which would be like a quarter of what I'd usually get. But I would just still say yes, because I was like, well, I need to let them know that I'm down to work and I am reliable, so that, you know, I have that word of mouth going around with my ability. But yeah, there have been a lot of times where it hasn't been a lot. I think it's starting to get to a point now, and this is even after like being over here for 2.5 years, where, you know, I'm starting to see how this can be a lot more sustainable. But yeah, there have been some points where I've been not paid too highly. I don't think I can like go into like specifics on how much I'm paid per day, but I try and get like a flat rate for the whole tour if I can.
Okay. And it's got more as you've got more well known, and you're like you're now demanding a good
well, it's like, and that's the thing, is the more work you do and the more people you work with, and also the more stuff you do, in terms of like even not just playing drums, like the more valuable you become, you know. So it's like you're just trying to like increase your value as like, yeah, as a contractor or even like as a brand. Sometimes, you know, you want people to want to pay you. But yeah, definitely like over time it has gotten better for sure, which is nice.
Can you talk us through, Felix? Because I only know this because one of the last times I'd been talking to you, I was actually trying to get your help with a concert I put on where I was bringing Ben Merito in from Australia. But it was at that point that I realized he said to me, if my drummer isn't good enough, the whole thing falls over. That he believed the drummer, and had you been in the country, I was going to say, come for the night, and you were going to team up, and I was going to have a world-class drummer on the set. But Can you talk through the importance of a drummer? And that's not the importance of you blowing your own trumpet. It is suggesting to the rest of us that band set up with the 3 or 4 guitarists, the lead sing, everything that's going on, but you.
Mm-hmm.
What is the important? Because I know he put it at the highest.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take it back to like its purest form, like drumming and rhythm is just something that all humans as animals kind of like understand to some degree. Some people obviously have more knowledge than others, but like everyone can feel a beat, you know, like everyone, when you're listening to a song, there's something in that song that is making your head bop, and a lot of the time it's the drums. Drums are also the loudest instrument in the band, so they're the first thing that you can hear if they're messing up. But yeah, I mean, there's always been the saying, like if you're and excuse my French, but if the drummer's shit, then the band is shit. Because like the drummer provides the kind of foundation for the house. You know, if the foundation is shaky, then you know everything else is going to be falling apart. So yeah, the drummer will also really like kind of distinguish the feel of everything as well. You know, you could have one band and you've got one drummer who plays extremely straight, and then they've got another drummer who plays with a bit more swing and a bit more feeling. And like depending on the circumstance, like one could fit more, but one is definitely going to sound better. You know what I mean?
Is there also instinct involved when you'll be at a concert and they decide to re-chorus and get the crowd singing, and that would be driven by you sensing something because you're leading? Is that true? Right?
Yeah, well, a lot of the time, if something like that happens on stage, yeah, there'll be some communication between the band members and stuff. But like, say if we were up there and I kept going, like everyone else is going to have to keep going as well, you know, because like I said before, I'm the loudest, so I'm going to take the control at that point. But I feel like it's I know it's always very interesting to even watch bands go through different drummers and hear how much the sound can change. I mean, there's even been a couple instances where someone's had to fill in for BENEE because I was sick. And the person who filled in is an incredible drummer. Like in some cases he can chop more than me, but it was still different, you know, because we both have different touch on the instrument. And yeah, so it's definitely like a super integral part.
Can you lead us through, Felix, because people will be interested in this. You're playing at O2 Arena or Coachella or all of these amazing gigs. None of us can picture being front and center, auditorium. How many people are we talking? What's the noise like? And what's your day like leading to that moment when you step foot up and that noise hits you? And yeah, because kids will be fascinated.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the crowd size, Dylan, who I was talking about before, he put it so perfectly one time. It was the first time we'd ever played an arena show, and it was at Spark Arena in Auckland. And he said, I just looked around and it just felt like I was playing the FIFA video game with like all the blank faces like bubbling around in the stands, you know, because it's so big that you can't even like comprehend how many people are there. Like sometimes it's almost more nerve-wracking playing in front of a smaller crowd because you can like really feel that connection with everyone, you know, you can see each individual face. Whereas this, it's like it's almost like you feel a slight disconnect because there are so many people there. But leading up to the show, like it all just depends on what's going on. Like for example, for Coachella, that was like a standalone, like 2 festival weekends that we played, and so we would have arrived the night before, stayed in a hotel, and then I just would have woken up super nervous and then done some exercise to make myself feel less nervous, and then get some breakfast. Like I think you just want to like have a really nice day up until your performance. Like you want to have the least amount of stresses as possible, because that way, you know, you can go up there and just be in the moment rather than thinking like, oh, I didn't file my taxes this morning like I was meant to, or something like that, you know. Even with places like the O2 Arena, like we played that twice on the last tour, and one the first show was like towards the start of the UK run, and then the last time we played it was towards the end. And like both times we'd just arrive in on a bus, walk into the arena, go like find like this little cruddy shower, you know, where you're wearing your slides so you don't get foot fungus and stuff. Like it's not like we're like showering in like a 5-star suite or anything. So you do that, and then you go get some catering, and then just like a lot of waiting. And that's the thing, like often a lot of musicians will talk about is it's just like it's a lot of waiting. Like you'll have your hour or so to sound check. Sometimes on a tour like that where we were supporting, we wouldn't even have time to sound check, you know. So you've got even more time to wait, and even more time to wait thinking like, we didn't sound check this, so I wonder if this is going to work. And then you just play the show after all of that. Play it and then hop off.
Point in that show, Felix, is there a point where you're sitting pinching yourself? Because like I say, being in the arena is one thing, to be at the front that everyone's looking at. Is there points where that you start to and something happens? Because that's
yeah, especially something like Coachella. Like I remember Dylan and I both hopped off stage afterwards, and we both said like we felt like we were like high up there. We were completely sober, felt like we were high, because like when you play a show like that or a venue like that, like there is a lot of there's like a lot of legacy behind it. Or like Coachella is one of those things where like people in New Zealand would know about that festival, you know, like it's a more like well-known name. So we definitely had points where we're up on stage and we were looking at each other just going like, holy shit, like we're actually here, we're doing it, you know, and everything's going well. Like that's one of the biggest things you're thinking is like, okay, this is such an important show and I've worked so hard to get to this point. It would suck if all of the music cut out of my ears or if something fell over on my drum kit, you know. So a lot of the time you're just like, oh my God, it's working. Especially playing at a festival where you've got like a 15-minute changeover or so in between each band. And there are so many things technically that there's actually like a higher probability of it going wrong than there is it going right. It's almost like a wonder that it gets pulled off a lot of the time. Yeah. There are so many variables in the equation. So yeah, you definitely get to a certain point where you're like, oh, everything's working and we're killing it and the crowd is vibing, and there's like literally no better feeling than that, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with drumming as well, because it is physical. You can, I don't know, like I'll feel the emotions that I'm feeling from just being in that situation, and then I'm getting it from the crowd, and I can like physically exert that into my instrument, you know. And that's the cool thing about playing a big venue like the O2 Arena as well, is that you can hit as hard as you want, and you're not going to annoy anyone in the front row.
Can we talk, Felix? Now I'm maybe a parent sitting there and going, "Oh, damn, my kid wants to be a rock star." What are some of the dangers of your job? We've touched a little bit on drugs. You know, the groupie situation. Are there women throwing themselves at you? Are there men throwing themselves at you? I don't know. But
honestly, sometimes it's men more than women. I won't even lie.
There you go. But yeah, and are there dangers I haven't even acknowledged there? What are the dangers in your business that people need to be aware of?
I think honestly, I mean, the biggest thing that I would talk about, it wouldn't even be, because I think these days, I mean, you could get into drugs in any field, but for music and in this field, I'd say it's more just like the instability of your lifestyle, you know, because you have a couple months where you're on the road and you're working every day and you feel like, oh my God, I've got X amount of money coming in every week and it's more money than I'm used to, and you feel on top of the world, and then you hop off tour and then all of a sudden, I've got 6 months with no work right now, and I've got no money coming in, so I've got to like figure out a way to keep feeding myself and keep paying the rent. So I mean,
what some people don't realize, Felix, sorry to interrupt you, you're trying to live a normal life as well. You've got a partner. By the sounds, you've got a cat, which I'm really concerned about, because I'm not sure the cat should be traveling on a plane. So I'm worried about the cat. You're trying to live a normal life. Is that right?
Yeah, no, totally. And especially because like no matter how how much you like look up to that lifestyle and like you like glamorize it. Like I didn't grow up living that lifestyle, you know. There's still a certain part of me that craves like having all my washing done and like having the house be tidy and like having home cooked meals, because that's what I was used to as a kid, you know. That's like comfort for me. Yeah. So can you repeat the?
No, yeah, no, I'm just wondering about trying to live a normal life within the rock and roll. And like I say, you're doing some things there. You brought a cat, obviously. You've got a partner, and maybe she stabilizes you a little bit. Is that your attempt at normality?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think like just trying to establish like a really good home life is super important, because like you have that massive high. And even though I do have like a really nice home life, like I'll still come home, and depending on how long I was away, or it'd be like a week, it could be like 2 weeks where I'm just really not knowing what to do with myself, you know. Your whole structure is completely different. Like when you're at home, it's like you wake up and you've got to like get ready to get the day rolling and do stuff during the day. Whereas on tour, it's like, all right, you wake up and you wait, and then about 4 or 5 p.m. that's when you want to start hyping yourself up to work, you know. So it's definitely like it's a super tricky balance, but I'm very thankful that I do have like a nice home life here. It'd be
Where's home, Felix? Where are you calling?
Los Angeles at the moment. In
Oh,
LA. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Can I also ask about your connection with New Zealand? Because obviously most people, well, there'll be possibly there's people all around the world that might listen to this interview, but what's your connection now and your relationship with New Zealand since you've become this person?
I mean, I will always be a New Zealander. I'll always be a Kiwi, you know, and that's something that like I take a lot of pride in, even being in somewhere like America, because I think the fact that I was able to grow up in New Zealand and even grow up in like a town like Cambridge, I feel super grateful for, you know. You even see some situations, I hear about some situations that people are living in over here, and it definitely puts it into perspective. But I'll definitely always be coming back, and I'll still call that home. I'm just on a work visa over here right now, so I got to pay my taxes over here. But I'm coming back to New Zealand for Christmas this year, which will be super, super nice. I feel like when I was away for university, I was probably coming back to Cambridge and to home like 2 or 3 times a year, maybe 2 times a year. And then now it's once a year. Sometimes if I'm lucky, it's 2 times. But luckily with my work, I can tie in going home with jobs so that I don't have to pay for the flight. You know, because it's not cheap. That's why I haven't been able to go back sometimes, because it's so expensive to go from the US to New Zealand and back.
Yeah, no, that's really cool to hear. I just obviously before we start to wrap up, because I know you're a busy man, and just some advice for young kids sitting at school, whether it be drumming or just that whole love of music. Obviously, you're a real advocate for it. You're someone who said, you know, and so are we. You know, I hate to hear those kids at school dropping music because they are told they should do science. And although you said, well, maybe I could have done science, I doubt it would have been at the detriment to your music. But so, yeah, what's some advice for kids to stay involved in music and the opportunities they have, and what should they be doing to make one day have a future in it?
I think like if you've figured out that and this applies to anything, like not just music, but if you figure out that you love something and you do something without being told to do it, you know, like it's something that you sit down and want to do in your free time, like put everything you can into it, because that's something that you're always going to come back to, you know? And if it's already a choice, then sure, if you've made that choice and you can make money through it, then it's like amazing, you know? So I just say like, just if you love something and you're passionate about something, then just like really believe in yourself and go. Because realistically, like you know, even comparing myself to a lot of musicians and drummers over in LA, like you have kids who have really like even grown up in the scene over here, or who have parents who are connected in the music industry and stuff. I never actually had any of that. Like I have gotten to where I am now just because I never stopped believing that I could do it, you know? And I loved it as well. And I was like, well, I'm someone who I only want to do something that I really enjoy. So I'm going to just huck it as hard as I can. So I just say to anyone, yeah, just do that. But then also like it just takes time as well. Like never be discouraged by things not going your way. Like it may seem from the outside like I've had like a really smooth journey, but there were multiple times in the last few years, even moving to America, where I was almost in tears on the phone to my mum back home, being like, I haven't heard about any work. I have no money right now. Like it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Everyone else is getting everything. And so there were so many times where I almost did just come home and just give up. And like, but then you just keep pushing. Like today I woke up and I had 3 different job offers, which is like super, super rare. But it just shows that like, if you just keep pushing, that stuff will eventually happen. And just like push with other people as well. Like I would not be where I am today without the help and the connection of like playing with other people and knowing other people too. It's definitely like you want to, like coming up with your friends is the best feeling ever, because then you have a support system that, you know, can benefit you like later on as well. Like a lot of people that I've worked with BENEE have then gone on and worked with other people, and then they've brought me into those camps as well. Yeah, just don't be an asshole and try your hardest. That's like the best advice I could give, honestly.
It's interesting too, Felix, because I take you back to something you'd said, which you sort of said was a slight detriment. You didn't have a plan B, but the more we're hearing from kids who are successful is they don't have one. And I know I've heard Grace say it before, that forces you to make it. If you have too many backup plans, you're more likely to go, oh, things have got tough.
It's so much
back home.
Yeah, because and as humans as well, I feel like it's so like we always want to be comfortable. You know, we always want to take the road that, like one of my like friends, like mentors, will always say to me, you know, you grow up and you kind of want to have someone who's like, all right, here you go, Felix, here's this job and here's this, and we're going to take care of this way. But the magic never happens there. I actually remember, I feel like in Mrs. Peters' drama class, Grace, there was like a thing on the wall that was like your comfort zone and then where the magic happens.
And it was so far apart. I remember, it's like a big old comfort zone, and then like,
And I feel like that is so true, because when you step out of that comfort zone and go for something that may not seem as like attainable, like when you do get it, like the high is incredible, you know. And it also just like gives you so much more confidence to move on and put yourself forward for other things in life, if that makes sense.
It's and before I ask the sign off question, it reminds me, Felix, of like, until it's done, it hasn't been done. Like sometimes it's so simple as that, but like now people need to listen to this and be like, oh well, Felix did it. It's not that we're saying, hey, don't think about it, but having a plan B means you're not really going full force on plan A. And also plan B is going to evolve out of life. Like when COVID happened, I know you guys had to do like Jimmy Fallon or something remote, like plan moves, which is so sick. And so with all that wisdom, I know you're very young, but the wisdom looking back, I do always ask, and then London will say some more things, but I want to get there, as if you could go back to you, Felix, in year 12 or 13, just you to you, what advice would you be giving yourself?
Don't worry as much. I mean, I try to tell myself that now as well. But yeah, like just don't worry, and like, and everything will always like work out, but it may not be in the way that you like envisioned it to work out, but it still works out.
Yeah,
you know. I think that comes back to not having a plan B as well, as that if you're so focused on doing that thing, it's like you'll find a way to still like kind of get there or like adapt to make that work.
Because you have
you have to. Yeah, well, I don't want to do anything else. So but yeah, I just say don't worry, and just like keep trying your best. I think that's literally all you can do, is just like try your best. And also don't compare yourself to other people. I know it's such a simple thing, but especially with something like music or even stuff like sports and stuff, like it's so easy to compare yourself to other people, and without even realizing you'll stop focusing on the things that set you apart, you know, because you're only focusing on the things that you don't have. Yeah, I'd probably just say that.
Right.
Hey, look, yeah, like I said, we're about to jump onto another young artist now. But look, Felix, everyone who's listening, you've been talking to Felix Holton. If you haven't watched him on social media, I'd encourage you to get on. We'll put some of that onto the podcast, some of your links, Felix, if you don't mind, because
No, thanks so much for having me, and so nice to see you both as well. Like I said at the start. Wow.
Thanks, Felix. All the best.
You too. Good luck with the next interview.